In 331 BC, a young man of just 25 destroyed the largest army the world had ever seen. At the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander of Macedon faced Darius III of Persia commanding an army of 250,000 soldiers. Alexander had 47,000. The result was a crushing Macedonian victory. But what history books rarely tell is the devastating human cost of that conquest, and the troubled mind behind so much glory. Macedon, 356 BC. A kingdom in northern Greece, considered barbaric by the Athenians. King Philip II transformed Macedon into a military power by creating the Macedonian phalanx, a formation using 18-foot spears called sarissas. His son Alexander was born that same year. Legend held that on the night of Alexander's birth, the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, one of the seven wonders, caught fire. Priests interpreted it as a sign of an age of blood and glory. Alexander was educated by the greatest thinkers of his time. From age 13 to 16, his tutor was Aristotle, the most influential philosopher of antiquity. Aristotle taught him philosophy, medicine, science, and literature. Alexander carried Homer's Iliad on every campaign, sleeping with it under his pillow beside a dagger. He admired Achilles as his hero. But he had another education too. His father Philip had taught him war from childhood. In 336 BC, King Philip II was assassinated during his daughter's wedding, stabbed by one of his own bodyguards. Alexander, then 20, seized the throne immediately. His first act, eliminate all rivals to the crown. Then in 335 BC, he completely destroyed the city of Thebes, killing 6,000 people and enslaving 30,000 survivors, to send an unmistakable message to the Greek world. The age of Alexander had begun. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with 37,000 soldiers. His first great battle was at the Granicus River in modern Turkey, where he defeated the Persian satraps and their Greek mercenaries. Before the battle, he visited Troy, offering sacrifices at the tomb of Achilles and running naked around the grave in honor of his hero. It was a calculated gesture for posterity. Alexander knew he was writing history. Who was Alexander beyond the conqueror? Historical records describe a man of extreme contradictions. Generous to those he respected, brutal toward those who resisted. He drank excessively, likely an alcoholic, and committed acts of impulsive cruelty while intoxicated, including the murder of his general and friend Clitus in 328 BC during a banquet argument. He wept inconsolably afterward. He had extraordinary military intelligence but growing emotional instability. His greatest enemy was Darius III of Persia, king of an empire stretching from Egypt to India, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Darius fled from Alexander twice in battle, at Issus in 333 BC and at Gaugamela in 331 BC, before being assassinated by his own generals in 330 BC. His closest allies included Hephaestion, his intimate friend since childhood, and General Ptolemy, who would later found the Egyptian dynasty culminating in Cleopatra. In 331 BC, Alexander conquered Persepolis, the capital of the Persian Empire, a city of incomparable splendor. He let his soldiers sack and pillage it for days. Then he ordered the palace of Persepolis, a symbol of centuries of Persian civilization, to be burned. Historians still debate whether it was a calculated act of revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece 150 years earlier, or simply an impulsive act of destruction during a drunken night. After Persepolis, Alexander pressed eastward, Bactria, Sogdia, modern Afghanistan and Pakistan. In 326 BC, he crossed the Indus River and reached modern-day Pakistan. He wanted to continue to the Eastern Ocean. But his soldiers, exhausted after more than 8 years of continuous campaigning, refused to advance. For the only time in his life, Alexander yielded. He wept with rage and frustration. He turned the armies westward. He would never return to Greece. The march back was catastrophic. Alexander led part of his army through the Gadrosian Desert, modern Balochistan in Pakistan, a route that killed tens of thousands of soldiers from heat, thirst, and starvation. Historians estimate that more soldiers died on this crossing than in all the battles of the campaigns combined. It was a decision some historians attribute to vanity, others to a surge of growing mental instability. Back in Babylon in 323 BC, Alexander was planning a new series of conquests, including Arabia. But in June 323 BC, he fell suddenly ill after a banquet. His health deteriorated rapidly over 12 days. On June 10, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. He was just 32 years old. He had never lost a battle. The exact cause of death is debated to this day: typhoid fever, arsenic poisoning, or complications from alcoholism. The human cost of Alexander's conquests is incalculable. Estimates suggest his wars killed between 250,000 and 500,000 soldiers in battle alone. Entire cities were destroyed: Thebes, Persepolis, parts of modern Afghanistan. Hundreds of thousands were enslaved. The Gadrosian Desert March killed possibly 40,000 to 60,000 soldiers and civilian followers. Hephaestion, his closest friend, died months before him, in October 324 BC. Alexander was devastated. Alexander's death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. He left no clear heir. When asked to whom he would leave his empire, he reportedly said only, "to the strongest." The result was immediate: the Wars of the Diadochi, in which his generals killed each other for decades over pieces of the empire. Alexander's body was preserved in honey while the war for power raged around it. No single heir survived. Alexander was presented as a god while still alive, something he carefully constructed himself. In Egypt in 332 BC, he visited the oracle of Ammonius and emerged claiming to be the son of the god. The Egyptian priests confirmed it. His Greek generals found it excessive but dared not disagree. The sources we have about Alexander were written decades after his death. Plutarch wrote 400 years later, making it difficult to separate myth from reality. Alexander's body was first taken toward Macedon, then redirected to Egypt by Ptolemy, who used it to legitimize his own power. Alexander was buried in Alexandria, Egypt. For centuries, his tomb was a pilgrimage site. Julius Caesar and Augustus both visited and wept before it. The tomb was lost in the 4th century AD and has never been found. Where Alexander's body rests remains a mystery to this day. Alexander's impact on Western history cannot be overstated. He spread Greek culture, Hellenism, throughout Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. Greek became the lingua franca of the ancient world for centuries, which is why the New Testament was written in Greek, facilitating the spread of Christianity. The 21 cities he founded bearing the name Alexandria shaped the commerce and culture of the ancient world for generations. Alexander represents a timeless philosophical question: when does greatness justify cruelty? He destroyed Thebes, burned Persepolis, killed hundreds of thousands. But he also founded cities, promoted the sciences and arts, and created an unprecedented cultural exchange. Leaders throughout history, from Napoleon to Hitler, have cited him as a model. The fascination with Alexander persists because he embodies humanity's supreme contradiction, capable of the sublime and the atrocious at once. Alexander the Great died at 32 without a clear heir, without a succession plan, and with an empire impossible to hold together. Within 30 years, his empire had fragmented completely. But the world he created, Hellenistic, multicultural, connected, lasted for centuries. His name still resonates more than 2,300 years later. Perhaps because the world has never again seen anyone quite like him. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories.